He was just a janitor, a single father who carried a mop in one hand and his dreams in the other. Every morning before sunrise, Michael Carter walked through the glass doors of Silverstone Corporation, his reflection blending with the shine of the marble floors he was paid to clean. He wasn't supposed to speak much. Janitors weren't meant to be noticed in a place where people wore suits that cost more than his month's rent. But what no one knew was that beneath his worn-out uniform lived a man who once had a degree in economics, a mind sharp as a blade, and a dream that life had cruelly snatched away when his wife passed, leaving him to raise their little daughter, Lily, all alone. He had lost everything except his will to rise again. As he scrubbed the floors, he'd listen to meetings through the glass walls, absorbing every word about market trends, company losses, and product pitches. He understood it all, maybe even better than those executives did. Sometimes, as he polished the tables, he'd quietly whisper ideas to himself, nodding where they went wrong. Until one day, fate gave him the strangest opportunity. It started when a young intern, nervous and panicked, spilled coffee all over the CEO's presentation slides. The CEO, Victoria Hale, a woman feared for her perfectionism and cold logic, lost her composure, scolding the intern in front of everyone. Michael, witnessing the scene from the doorway with his mop bucket, couldn't hold his tongue. "Ma'am," he said softly, "if I may, you're presenting the wrong numbers." The room froze. Heads turned. Laughter followed. The executives chuckled, the janitor giving business advice. "What a joke." "Stick to cleaning, Mike," one of them sneered. But Victoria's sharp eyes narrowed. "What did you just say?" she asked. Michael, realizing he'd spoken out of place, tried to step back. "I just meant that your data seems to be missing the cost per unit variance from last quarter. It's why your profit margin doesn't match the growth ratio." The room went silent again. The air thickened. "And you know this, how?" the CFO asked mockingly. Michael hesitated, then sighed. "I used to teach finance before my wife passed." Laughter broke out louder this time, but not from Victoria. She didn't laugh. She looked at him, scanning his face as if trying to read his story. "If you're so smart, then tell me," she said coldly. "What would you do differently?" The room was ready to laugh again, but Michael didn't flinch. He walked to the whiteboard, set his mop aside, and with trembling hands rewrote the numbers in silence. Within moments, the projections shifted. The company's entire profit outlook looked clearer, more accurate, and shockingly profitable. Gasps echoed. Victoria's expression hardened. "Who told you that?" she asked, almost as if he'd stolen insider data. "No one," he said quietly. "It's basic forecasting. You're targeting the wrong demographic." The executives were speechless. One finally muttered, "How did we miss that?" Victoria looked back at him. "You've worked here how long?" 3 years, ma'am," Michael replied. "Mostly nights." The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Then she said something no one expected. "Stay after the meeting," she ordered. That night, while everyone else left, Michael stood there with his mop beside him as Victoria approached. "You realize you embarrassed my board today," she said sharply. "I didn't mean to," he replied softly. "I just wanted to help." "Help?" she scoffed. "Do you know what it looks like when a janitor corrects my executives? It makes me look like I'm hearing fools. Michael lowered his gaze. I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't mean disrespect. I just saw something that could save the company money. She was about to dismiss him when she caught sight of a small hand-drawn paper sticking out of his shirt pocket. A sketch of a product design with notes scribbled in the margins. What's that? She asked. Just something I've been working on, he said hesitantly. Ideas for optimizing production lines, mostly for fun. You design products for fun. I design solutions, he said simply. It's how I cope. My daughter, she's 8. She believes her dad can fix anything. For a second, the Ironworld CEO saw something in his eyes that reminded her of herself years ago. Hungry, desperate, determined. You know what people say about dreamers like you, Michael, she said bitterly. They say you'll die mopping floors while others cash in on your ideas. Michael smiled faintly. Then I guess I'll die trying to prove them wrong. For the first time, Victoria didn't know what to say. The janitor wasn't arrogant. He wasn't begging. He was certain. And that certainty lingered in her mind long after he left that night. The next morning, the office was buzzing. Word had spread that the janitor had schooled the execs. Some laughed, others rolled their eyes, but Victoria couldn't shake the feeling that there was something special about him. She ordered HR to pull his file and was stunned to find his old credentials. MBA in Business Strategy, former professor at Westfield University. She stared at the screen, speechless. Why was a man like that scrubbing floors? That afternoon, she called him to her office again. Michael arrived nervously, cap in hand. You wanted to see me, ma'am. Sit, she said. No, stand. I want to ask you something. Why are you here? He blinked. Because I need to feed my daughter. No, she pressed. Why here? You could have worked anywhere. He sighed deeply. Because this company reminded me of who I used to be, ambitious, fearless. I wanted my daughter to see that even if I can't live my dream, I can still keep it close. Victoria leaned back, processing his words. You think you could fix this company if given a chance? She asked skeptically. He smiled faintly. Not fix it, just guide it back to its purpose. She studied him for a long moment, then said, You have 48 hours. Prepare a proposal for me. If it's any good, I'll consider you for a consulting position. If it's not. She paused, her tone sharpening. You're fired. Michael nodded. Fair enough. That night, after tucking Lily into bed, he stayed up until dawn scribbling numbers, charts, and ideas across scraps of paper. Every ounce of experience, every bit of pain, every lesson from failure poured into that proposal. When the sun rose, he looked at the finished document, his heart swelling with pride. For you, baby, he whispered, kissing Lily's forehead. The next morning, he walked into the CEO's office with trembling hands, his uniform still smelling of bleach. Victoria looked unimpressed at first, flipping through the pages casually, until she froze. The numbers, the logic, the clarity, it was genius. You did this yourself, she asked quietly. Every line, he said. It's not just about profit, ma'am. It's about people. You've got employees running on burnout. You've got customers losing trust because your marketing sounds robotic. Bring back heart to your brand, and the money will follow. Victoria set the papers down. For once, the woman known for never showing emotion looked shaken. You just summarized what I've been trying to fix for 2 years, she whispered. You really think it's that simple? Simple, Michael said softly, doesn't mean easy. And that one line, froze her completely. It echoed in her mind, haunting her. Simple doesn't mean easy. It wasn't corporate language, it was truth. The kind of truth that changes people. When he left her office that day, the whole company buzzed again, not out of mockery this time, but curiosity. The janitor, they whispered, might actually save the company. What none of them knew was that his journey was only beginning, because sometimes the lowest man in the room carries the highest wisdom. And as the elevator doors closed behind him, Michael looked at his reflection one more time and smiled. I'm not done yet, he whispered. Viewers, if you believe that dreams never die, no matter how small your job or how dark your days, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because Chapter 2 is where everything changes. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when the janitor finally gets his chance to shine. The next morning, the whole building was buzzing like a storm was about to hit. The janitor was scheduled to present a business proposal to the entire Silverstone Corporation board. No one could believe it. Some mocked him openly, calling it the janitor's comedy show. Others whispered in curiosity, wondering how a man who pushed a mop could possibly understand billion-dollar strategies. But Michael Carter wasn't nervous. He was ready. He had spent the entire night preparing, reviewing every slide, every line, and every data point, not for himself, but for the little girl waiting for him at home who believed her father was a hero. He stood outside the glass-walled boardroom, clutching a folder with trembling hands. Inside sat 12 people, high-powered executives, investors, and of course, Victoria Hale, the CEO who had given him this one chance. The same woman who had built an empire from nothing and wasn't known for showing mercy to anyone who wasted her time. As Michael entered, the whispers died down. You're late, said one of the directors with a smirk. Had to finish cleaning the floors first, the room laughed. Michael smiled politely and said, Yes, sir. I figured it's good to keep things spotless before we talk about what's really dirty, inefficiency. The laughter faded instantly. Victoria's lips twitched. Even she couldn't hide the small grin that crept up. All right, Mr. Carter, she said. Show us what you've got. He took a deep breath and began. The first few minutes were quiet charts, graphs, and numbers. But then his tone changed. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, Silverstone isn't dying because of market shifts. It's suffocating because it forgot how to breathe. You've built walls of protocol so high that no one at the bottom can even see the sunlight. Your employees are burnt out, your customers feel unheard, and your brand, he paused, it's become a logo instead of a legacy. The room fell silent. The CFO shifted uncomfortably. The HR director looked down. Even Victoria leaned forward slightly, her piercing eyes fixed on him. I've seen this place from the ground up, literally. I've cleaned your floors, emptied your trash, and listened to your late-night arguments through open doors. And I can tell you one thing for sure. People here are scared. Scared to fail, scared to speak, scared to care. But a company that runs on fear doesn't grow, it decays. He clicked to the next slide, a picture of Lily's hand-drawn heart taped to his mop handle. "My daughter drew this," he said softly. "She said, 'Daddy, your mop looks sad.' So I made it smile. That's what you've lost here, the smile, the heart behind the hustle." The executives looked at each other, unsure whether to laugh or to cry. "So what's your grand solution, Mr. Janitor?" one of them finally mocked. Michael met his gaze. "You need to stop thinking like bosses and start thinking like builders. Create mentorship programs between departments. Cut unnecessary meetings. Let innovation flow from every floor, even from janitors like me. You'll be shocked how much brilliance is hiding behind blue collars." Then came the financial strategy, precise, innovative, and simple enough to execute immediately. It involved shifting the company's marketing toward community-driven engagement, introducing performance bonuses for lower-level staff, and rebranding with a message of authenticity. As the numbers unfolded, the board's expressions changed from smugness to disbelief. "Wait," said the CFO, flipping through the data. "If these projections are right, we'd recover our quarterly losses in 3 months. 2.5, Michael corrected. "If we trust the people who make this company run." Murmurs filled the room. Victoria said nothing. She was watching him, studying the confidence in his tone, the quiet power in his words. He wasn't just presenting data, he was delivering truth wrapped in passion. Finally, one of the board members scoffed. "Even if your numbers check out, why should we listen to a janitor?" Michael looked straight at him and replied, "Because the view from the floor shows you cracks the ceiling can't see." That line hit like thunder. The room went silent again. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, Victoria stood up. "Meeting adjourned," she said firmly. "Everyone except Mr. Carter out." The executives protested, but her tone left no room for argument. Within seconds, the room emptied, leaving only the two of them. She walked toward him slowly. "You've got guts," she said quietly, "and vision. But do you really think one proposal can change an entire company?" Michael smiled faintly. "Not one proposal, one belief. And what belief is that? That people matter more than profit." She folded her arms. "You're an idealist." "Maybe," he said. "But idealists built everything real in this world." For the first time, she didn't know what to say. The corporate mask slipped for just a second, revealing the tired woman behind the title. "You know, when I started this company," she said softly, "I was like you, hungry, fearless. But somewhere along the way, I stopped listening." Michael nodded. "It happens to the best leaders, but it's never too late to remember why you started." Those words hit her harder than she expected. Later that week, she called an emergency press conference. The employees gathered, expecting another corporate speech, but what they saw changed everything. Victoria took the stage and said, "We've made mistakes. We've lost touch with what matters. But starting today, we're rebuilding together. And I want to introduce someone who reminded me of what leadership really means." Cameras flashed. Whispers erupted. Then, to everyone's shock, she said, "Please welcome our new senior business consultant, Michael Carter." The crowd gasped. The janitor stepped onto the stage, still wearing his faded uniform. For a moment, no one clapped. Then one person did. Then two. Then the entire hall erupted in applause. Tears welled in Michael's eyes. From the crowd he spotted a small figure, Lily, holding a sign that read, "Go Daddy." That was the moment he realized he hadn't just earned a job, he had earned respect. Months passed, and the transformation was nothing short of miraculous. Silverstone's profits soared, employee satisfaction doubled, and even the media caught on, dubbing him the janitor genius. But the real magic wasn't in the numbers, it was in the people. Every floor of the company started echoing with laughter again. Teams collaborated, workers believed. Victoria often found herself staring at Michael's office. Yes, his own office now, where he still kept his mop in the corner as a reminder of where he came from. One evening, as the sun set behind the skyline, Victoria walked in and said, "You know, you could buy yourself a new suit now." Michael chuckled. "And risk people thinking I forgot who I am? Not a chance." She smiled, something rare for her. "You've done more for this company than anyone ever has. What's your secret?" He looked out the window, watching the city lights flicker. "When you've lost everything," he said softly, "you learn that the only thing worth building again is hope." That night, as he returned home, Lily ran into his arms. "Daddy, did you save the company?" she asked with wide eyes. He smiled, kneeling down to hug her tight. "No, sweetheart," he whispered. "We saved each other." The camera of life zoomed out on that scene. The humble janitor turned visionary. The father who refused to give up. The man who proved that greatness isn't about titles or suits, but about courage, humility, and love. And as his story spread, thousands of people around the world found inspiration to stand back up and chase their dreams again. Because sometimes the world laughs at you before it listens. But when it finally does, it never forgets your voice. Viewers, if this story touched your heart, if you believe that no job is too small and no dream too big, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join this channel for more life-changing stories. Because your story might just be the next one we tell.